Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes. Here are the three big stories for today. We're going to talk about Putin and Xi, we'll talk about NATO, and we'll talk about the elections in Britain and what that means for Ukraine, and then have a little fun at the end. So the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit meeting was just over the last couple of days. Putin got to talk to Xi on the sideline. This is the actual website of the president of Russia, and I read all about it. We've had some very substantive talks, signed a joint policy statement, and launched cross years of culture. Later on, we visited Harbin. We had more opportunities to see how close the historical ties between Russia and China are. It was a nothing burger. Absolutely nothing substantial came out of this. Every time Putin meets with Xi, it's like he's like holding his hand out for more and more, and Xi's not giving him anything, and Putin goes away just disappointed every time. RT is talking about what a great success the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is because they're de-dollarizing. I don't think this is going to last. The use of national currencies in Russia's settlements with fellow SCO members has exceeded 92%. So members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization are trading in their own currencies. But both the yuan and the ruble are sick currencies, and it's like I'm hard pressed to figure out which one's in worse shape. Okay, currently 14 countries, including Egypt, the only African state, hold SCO dialogue partner status. So the idea is that they can trade between their own currencies and be more efficient, but really trading on the dollar was the safest course of action, and they want to get away from the dollar because they want to take the US down a peg. But oh well, that's where they are, and that's what they're seeking to do. The global trend toward using national currencies in trade instead of the US dollar gained significant momentum after Russia was cut off from the Western financial system and has foreign reserves frozen in 2022. Yeah, but you're no better off now than you were before, but they turn being cut off into, we see what we did to them, and it's not really going to work out so well. So nothing really happened there. Yesterday I talked about how this makes me angry, and it really does. NATO's betrayal of Ukraine. The West has been doing that writ large. America has been slow walking. NATO has been coming after excuse to prepare Ukraine for NATO status. They don't have to invite them in now, but they can prepare all the steps so that when the war is over, bam, they can get it done. But they're not willing to do that. In fact, part of NATO doesn't want to do that, and this is what we're seeing more here in this Politico article. Ukraine bridge to NATO could be dangerous, expert warns. And bridge is already a concession, because it used to be like, here's a path to NATO, here's a smooth, we're going to talk about the next step to NATO, and they're like, no, we'll have this bridge to this. Okay. So dozens of foreign policy experts on Wednesday called on NATO members to avoid advancing toward Ukrainian membership at the summit, warning that it would endanger the US and allies and rupture the coalition. If Ukraine is admitted, the group argues, Russia attacking Ukraine in the future would trigger NATO's Article 5. Not necessarily, but Russia would be a whole lot less likely to attack Ukraine in the future because it's part of NATO. The closer NATO comes to promising that Ukraine will join the alliance once the war ends, the greater the incentive for Russia to keep fighting the war. Again, that's another Russian talking point. Moving Ukraine toward membership could backfire. The letter was organized by William Roger, president of the American Institute for Economic Research, and Stephen Wertheim, a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. This is just the wrong way to get to peace. I appreciate that they want peace, but getting there this way isn't going to actually get you there. Other analysts aren't in agreement. Last week, Rand Corporation researchers wrote that allies would benefit from offering Ukraine clarity about conditions for future membership at the summit. The Atlantic Council has also been pushing for NATO membership for Ukraine, arguing that it would prove to Kyiv that Western support won't waver. The Biden administration has refrained from supporting Kyiv's immediate membership. Why? What is preventing you from doing this? Jake Sullivan? Or do you really not want that to happen? This is absurd. But multiple top officials recently said a bridge into the alliance is what was going to be offered. There will be a path, but that path is going to be kind of windy to get there. Officials say NATO will also offer Ukraine a new headquarters like this is a consolation prize, to manage its military assistance, a gesture of good faith that the West will have the country's back for the long term, even if it's not afforded membership right now or ever. Schultz in Germany was talking about maybe in 30 years. Okay, Ukraine isn't expecting much movement on its membership at the summit. Rather, security guarantees are what they're looking for right now. They need money, they need armaments, they need security right now. But they need to also know that they're going to be part of NATO in the long term. Ukraine is still pursuing its maximalist objectives against Russia to recapture all of the territory that it has lost in the war. Andrew Yermak, President Volodymyr Zelensky's top advisor, told a small group of reporters on Tuesday night Ukraine was not ready to compromise, given what Donald Trump talked about, how he was going to negotiate and cause them to compromise and that sort of thing. Okay, next story. This is looking at what's going on in Britain, and I'm an American. I don't understand the British system like the Brits do, but I found this very interesting. For the first time in 14 years, the UK may change power. The ruling Conservative Party has virtually no chance of winning more than 100 of the 650 seats in Parliament. Labour has a chance to win more than 400 seats. Now, at the time that I'm recording this, the polling isn't in, and we don't actually know what's going to happen. But there was a great political article that was written apparently by someone British to explain to Americans what's actually going on. It's the inverse of what I normally do, and I thought it was interesting. We can't give you a felon and an old guy on July 4th. By the way, thanks for doing it on our Independence Day. It's nice. We're going to have fireworks and everything. But we do have a gambling scandal and Nigel Farage. London, greetings America from your favorite offshore missile base. Here in Britain, your former overlords have an election this week. And no, it doesn't involve Princes William and Harry. That's a good caveat because I don't think some Americans actually understand that. And while we may not be able to offer you a memory-challenged octogenarian duking it out with a permatan convicted felon, Britain's big vote is still an important moment. This is looking like a game-changing election that could sweep the Conservatives away after 14 years in power. Now, from what I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not the ideological separation like there is in the United States, where if the government changes hands from Conservative to Labor, not a lot's going to change for Ukraine, and I'm very comforted by seeing that. I wish that was the case in the United States as well. Here's everything you need to know about the UK election. Brits pick 650 new members of parliament, known as MPs, to represent their local area, kind of like you do for the House of Representatives. The Prime Minister is the dude who can command a majority of the House of Commons, the UK Parliament's lower chamber, by getting the most MPs elected from the party that they lead. The winner doesn't officially become Prime Minister until they've kissed hands with the King. Yes, really, Britain gonna be Britain, right? Okay, I mean, I hope you mean just shake hands, but okay, I guess that's the thing. So the winner is expected to head to Buckingham Palace on Friday morning to see King Charles and tell him that they are confident that they can form a new government. Then they'll go on to number 10 Downing Street. That's where the Prime Minister lives. Unlike in the States, where you have that whole post-election transition thing, a defeated Prime Minister loses their home as well as their job overnight. Didn't Britain just have like 12 elections? Not quite. In short, the 2016 Brexit referendum kicked off a wild time in British politics. The governing Conservative Party, also known as the Tories, has not been able to stop knifing its leaders ever since. Theresa May couldn't get Brexit done. Botched handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and a host of damaging scandals did in Boris Johnson. Tory grassroots favorite Liz Truss, whose tax-slashing, debt-fueled administration imploded within weeks, and then her old rival Rishi Sunak stepped up to the plate. Pretty much everyone, including most of his own MPs, were shocked when he called a snap election. Wait, so this is what I didn't understand. Your leaders can call an election when they feel like it. Huh. How about that? Yep, well, kinda. There's a 5-year time limit on any administration. Within that period, a prime minister can call an election whenever they like, even just for fun, or more aptly, at the exact moment where it will most favor them and their party, and most screw up the opposition. And they do this by having a chat with the king, well, of course. Sunak first rose to national prominence as top finance minister during the pandemic. But he also quit Boris Johnson's government in 2022. He ran against Truss, lost that battle to Truss, but took over when she imploded after just a few weeks. So the Labor guy is Keir Starmer. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, never stops talking about his dad's job as a toolmaker. We have politicians over here too that, I came from working class roots and my dad milked cows or whatever, that kind of thing. He served under hard left leader Jeremy Corbyn, who took the party into its crushing defeat in 2019, but now insists he always knew the guy was a dud and that he's changed Labor for good. His party certainly has a commanding lead in the polls. He's dragged Labor to the perceived center, which is probably healthy if you want to get elected. He even booted Corbyn out of the party. Neither party seems to be really addressing any of the big issues that bedevil Britain, including mounting debt, crumbling public services, stagnant economy. Labour insists it's got a plan. The Conservatives say massive Labour tax hikes are coming. That sounds just like the US. But then you look at this, UK National Parliament election polls, a poll of polls, and Labour looks like it has about 40%, and the Conservatives have about 22%, Reform Party has 16%, and if you go back about 3 years, there was this place where there was, November 20th, 21 was about the time where they were at even place, and since then, it's just been moving up for Labour and staying up for Labour. Okay. We know what's going on with Sunak, and he had some goofs, like he was walked away from a D-Day veterans thing to go do a TV interview, and conservative insiders placed suspicious-looking bets on the timing of election date just before it was called. Yeah, by contrast, Labor has been dulled to a fault. By the way, being dulled to a fault is actually a great thing. I wish we could have some of that in our politics here as well. Then there's a dynamic of Nigel Farage as he tries to eclipse the Tories on the hard right. Him again. So Donald Trump's mate and arguably the most effective force in British politics for decades ain't going anywhere. We'll see how all that plays out. So anything else we need to know? The two guys vying for office here are watching the U.S. election closely. Starmer is a social democrat, and he'll be cheering for Biden. Okay, that makes sense. He's on the left. Biden's on the left. But his party has been forging links with Donald Trump's team and key Republicans just in case. Even Starmer's foreign policy chief, David Lammy, who once called Trump a neo-Nazi sympathizing sociopath, is sounding much warmer about the Republican firebrand now. So they're bracing against that possibility. Okay, now this is the fourth big story. It's kind of a bonus. This is Volodymyr Zelensky saying Happy 4th of July to all our American friends. We understand what independence means to you, Americans, and you can see that it means the same thing to us Ukrainians. We value independence and rely on our brave men and women to defend it. Together, we are creating hope for people all over the world, a hope that freedom will always triumph. True independence is always the result of won battles, and freedom must be reinforced with victories every time tyranny attempts to destroy it. On this day, we join our trusted ally in recognizing this most sacred value for both our nations. We do so with deep gratitude for all the support that the United States has provided and continues to provide Ukraine in its fight for freedom, independence, and security, not only its own, but that of all free nations. Thank you, America. Thank you to every American heart that beats in solidarity with brave Ukrainian hearts fighting for independence. I wish the United States and all Americans strength, unity, and unwavering belief in the triumph of good over evil, liberty over tyranny, and life over terror. Happy Treason Day, ungrateful colonials. I showed this morning. It's only treason if you lose. And then the 4th of July. We were Brexiting before it was cool. Okay, my friends, I think on Saturday, and I'm going to put this out on Patreon and behind the membership tab. For my patrons, I'm going to have a special live stream. So if you sign up at patreon.com, Professor Gerdes Explains. I know I was driving people over there before just trying to have a backup plan, but then a bunch of people stepped up to actually support, and I really appreciate that. And I've been trying to think of like a way to give back. So this will be a special live stream for them and for anyone who became a member because I created the member page page. Somebody asked me, well, I don't do Patreon. Can I become a member to the channel? And so they will equally be able to access that live stream Saturday morning. Okay, thank you for the time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.